Bhaskar, for that wonderful introduction, and thanks everyone for joining. Bhaskar, do I turn on my video or are you okay without it? Because it's not
Please,
really permitting me right now.
I
I think you need to give me access for that.
should have been you are a panelist, so you should go for it. So I should have done this before the recording began. Sorry. Let's talk.
Hello, everyone. So good to see so many familiar people right here. Thank you so much for joining. And thanks again, Bhaskar, for that lovely introduction and playing all my favorite songs to begin with. Really motivating to start the session. So today, as you all know, I'm talking about persuasive writing and storytelling in proposals. Bhaskar has already given my introduction, so I don't have to do that, yet again. Just to give you highlights, like, I started off my career as a journalist and then landed in the bids and proposals industry. I think a lot of us would say that we landed into this industry, right? But fortunately, I'm totally loving it. And, it's been 10 plus years now, and having worked with companies like, Herman Miller, TCS, and currently I'm with Iron Mountain, and I lead the APAC Bid Management team. And I'm really loving this opportunity that I've had over the years, especially this connect that I'm having with everyone across the world and learning from each other. I think, having these kind of training sessions from Baachu, Scribble, and other organizations really helps us to get to know each other and also share that knowledge. So, you know, the takeaways that I look at, how for you guys to have from this session would be proven tips and strategies to write winning proposals, understanding the art of persuasion, importance of storytelling in proposals, and effective proposal writing techniques. So when we talk about persuasion, we all know that whether we are in the pre-sales field, whether we are in the bids and proposals or sales, we often hear about this word, this term persuasion, right? So what is it all about? I mean, different people have different opinion and views about what persuasion is all about. Let me ask you guys, who are here today, because those who have attended my training sessions earlier know that I'll ask them a lot of questions because I like to keep my sessions interactive. But trust me, I'm not going to ask too many questions today. But to begin with, if you can just put in a chat what you think is persuasion according to you, right? If you, even if it's one word or a sentence, anything is fine. So I'm going to just like give you a minute to see your responses in the chat, and then we can continue. Convincing client, triggering an emotion, convince someone about something. Okay. The art of influencing an individual or group's thought process and decision making. Good one, Scott. Changing opinions, fulfilling need. Nice one. Influencing people. Good one, Nicole. Get the other person agree to you, make people think. Okay, the art of listening and reflecting back. Great one, Will. So I think, I have the exact responses that I was hoping for. So, basically we think about persuasion, it's convincing, right? How do you convince someone? And is it always easy to convince someone, right? It's not that simple in the, in the scenario where we have to sell something, make them pay for it. It's not really easy to convince in that sense, right? So let's look at what the definition of persuasion is. A simple definition of persuasion: it's nothing but a process of, like, most of you rightly said, convincing someone else to carry out an action or agree with an idea. So in the workplace, you may use persuasion to sell products, to recruit team members. You have to persuade even, people to join you, right? Sometimes, and increase productivity. I'm still seeing some amazing responses like that. Change their mind. Yes, exactly. It's, in line with convincing. So persuasion can be done through verbal or written communication, using logical reasoning, data analysis, and verifiable facts, and mainly to prove that your point of view is feasible and has merit, right? So this is what persuasion is all about. So now that we know what persuasion is, how do we do it? Is it as simple as we, define it? Is it that simple in our day-to-day work or day-to-day proposals? That's what we're going to look at now. So, when I was looking at, talking about persuasion, something that really caught my attention was, this Aristotle's principle, right? So this has been like more than 1,000 years now, but I feel it is still so relevant and applicable, to this day when we talk about persuasion. These concepts of ethos, pathos, and logos, I'm sure most of you would have heard it before. Even if you have not, you're hearing it today. I feel it's very, related and relevant to the term persuasion. Let's look at what each of these terms mean, and how we can relate it to our work, right? So thanks to Aristotle for this. So when we talk about ethos, so ethos is nothing but it's all about you, right? Your credibility. So the first mode of persuasion, when you're going to meet someone, what are you going to do? You're going to introduce yourself. You're going to talk about you. What are you as a person, or what credibility, or what do you have, right? What do you have to offer them? So whether we are talking about you, whether you're writing a proposal about yourself and convincing someone that I am someone like, for example, if you're in an interview kind of a situation and you want to convince the company that you're interviewing that I am the right fit for you, so you're going to talk about you. So that is persuading somebody that hire me for what that is your credibility. And when you're talking in proposals, it's about your company that you're talking about, right? So you're going to talk about why they should be trusting you um, with your business, like with by giving their whole contract and by investing in you. Why should they be doing it? So talk about you and your credibility. That is the ethos part. And how do you do that, right? It's okay, easy to say like, okay, talk about you, but how? What are you going to actually write? So these are some of the techniques and tips that you can use to build your ethos, right? So first and foremost, you need to know your stuff. Before you even start writing something, you need to do an ample amount of research, right? And nowadays it's not that difficult to do your own research. You have like ample number of resources. Just google it, google a keyword, and you'll get so many useful and so many what do you call, very relevant articles that you would be looking on any topic. So do your research whenever before you begin to write, right? Then you have a lot of thoughts and ideas in your mind, formulate that into your own words. That is how you begin the writing, like knowing it, very important. And avoiding careless mistakes, right? Not really doing a research from a authorized sources and just picking it from somewhere without validating it. That could be a careless mistake. So try avoiding that. And from your experience, do you have your impressive credentials, and introduce your qualifications near the beginning of your proposal? So when I say beginning of your proposal, doesn't mean you're going to just start the proposal with just talking about your company all the while, but try to relate it to a customer issue, right? So if customer solution, and then try to see that this credibility of you, does it really tally well or go well with a customer issue or a solution? So if you tell them that, okay, I am someone, and I have this level of experience in the same domain, and they have an issue in that particular domain, then they will know that, okay, we are relying on we can trust this person, right? So that is the experience, and that is about introducing yourself somewhere in the beginning. So this I'm talking about maybe in the proposal. If I'm talking, it could be an executive summary wherein you need to plan how you're going to present your credentials, right? And then while they work for some of the brands, especially, this is about toning it down, use of exclamation points and emojis, right? So in the world of social media and all of that, what tends to happen is, even in our official communication, sometimes we end up using all these emojis. It is okay for an informal chat or a conversation, or even an email if it is between colleagues in a friendly manner, but not in a proposal, right? In a proposal, unnecessary exclamatory marks or any sort of emojis is a strict no. So we should try our best to avoid these kind of these kind of usage of emojis. And final check is very important. I'm sure all of us from the proposal field are very much aware, like what the rounds of reviews that we have, right? It goes from the content team to the editing team, and then again a team of reviewers to review our content, mainly because we do not want to make even a smallest of the grammar errors, right? So even sometimes, in that whole thing of giving a whole big proposal that has a lot of words in it, we tend to think, okay, we have given the content that we need. It's okay to pass on the grammar check is not necessary. No, grammar plays a lot of important role. Like a content, people can judge you if you're going to make a very glaring mistake, right? So in proposals, making any sort of grammatical mistakes is a strict no. So this shows your evaluators that you are very serious about this particular document, right? Only when you show that that particular proposal that you're presenting them is, it's really worked upon seriously, that's when they know that their business or their contract will be taken seriously, right? So this is how you build that initial ethos through your writing. Now let's look at the second element of it. That's the pathos. That is nothing but the gut feeling, your emotions, right? So we are human beings, and we know that every human being will have your emotional side, and we can hit that in the proposals. So convincing through emotions is nothing but the pathos element here. So convince the reader of your credibility. First you're going to tell them that you have these credentials, and then how you're going to convince them by connecting it to their emotions, right? It's time to get in touch with your emotional side. So this is mainly the persuasion based on feelings, and it is very powerful when it is used accurately, right? So this could be like, okay, I'm going to cover that in the next slide, how you're doing it, because it's not always, even with emotions we have to be very careful. It's not like we're going to just talk about, over usage of emotions is also not good, because that can look like we are really desperate to have that particular opportunity or something, which we are most of the times. Yes, we want to win a contract, but how, in what subtle way we are going to present that emotion, it's very important. So use this power words, right? Like your positive adjectives can be your best friend sometimes when you're targeting emotions, right? Use these words, like show them that urgency, right? Like use words like instant, immediate, and curiosity, like unique, special, or for safety, like whenever you're talking, because for every client, their company, their safety and all of that is very important, right? So use these words like guaranteed and secure, right? And you have to like tell them how you're going to do this, not just using these words, but these are some of the emotion words that you can use when you're trying to target the pathos element of it, right? And then we all know that happiness sells. So the testimonials that we receive from our clients will always help us to give us that weightage in our proposals. That is why we see in a lot of proposals, case studies, references are constantly asked. And yeah, sometimes we struggle with it, but when we talk to our clients, and even if we get those testimonials, right, of our relationship with them, and if they give us that happy, very nice comments, and then that goes into our proposal, imagine the new client who do not know us will purely rely on these testimonials, and they will go by those words. Okay, this company can be trusted, and this client, they really know what they are doing, right? So this is what we mean by targeting the emotions. And like I mentioned, less is more. Readers can get, sometimes if you're going to use over emotional appealing, if it looks like, okay, I really want this, and over, if you're going to repeat the sentences and make it overly emotional, no, let's avoid that. But emotional, some element of emotions in the proposal, it's important, so it's required. So that is why the pathos, that's where the pathos element becomes it plays that role, right? And then if you see the last one, make sure to balance pathos with logos. Now what is logos? I think the word itself, it says it. Can anyone say to me, like, this is like checking if how many are really listening to me. All right, so what do you understand by logos? I mean, I'm sure, like, at least some of you would have been familiar with Aristotle's these concepts. But even if you're not, when you're, what ethos is about, it's all about you. Pathos is about the emotions. What do you think is logos is about? I'm going to just go into that in the next slide, but let me hear from some of you. Logic, awesome. That's like bang on point. Do we have any other responses to logos? Logical points. Thank you, Deepesh and Ankit, for the responses. Um, I think Ankit has just okay, critical approach. Okay, anything else? All right. So you guys have hit it right. So it's logos is nothing but logic, right? The science of deduction. So right. So why do we need logos? Logos also, not also, it is actually the most important one among all these three, because logic based appeals should form the foundation of your proposal. After all, your reader has to rationalize parting with your money, right? Like I mentioned in the beginning, they are investing on you, right? Why when they are investing that much amount of money, rather than just seeing your credibility and your emotions, they would want logic. They would want to know why they are giving, you have to present those facts and figures. You can't just talk jargons. You can't just talk about, put a nice sentence and say, oh, I've targeted their emotion, I've given my credibility. No, that those are important, yes, but ultimately it is the logic part of it. You're going to present that stats and figures for them. So how do you do that, right? How do you do the persuasive writing using logic? Yeah, so Bhaskar says, please add your questions in chat or in Q&A section. We will respond in the end. Yeah, that sounds good. So you can do that as well. So moving on to how you can use logos part of it, right? So by numbers, logic, when you talk about, stats, it's always the numbers first. Numbers speaks, and always, numbers are easy to decipher, like what is the value that they're offering through numbers, right? Remember how your reader has to part with your money. Convince them that they'll get it back. This is a very important point, right? When they are investing so much, convince them that it is worth investing and they are going to get it back. Populate your proposal with stats and statistics and case studies of your past successes. This plays a very important role. That is why whenever you win a proposal, always make sure that you have, they are ready to give you that reference, or you make that case study and tell them that what was the issue, how did you deal with it, and what was that the client liked about you. So all of this really plays a very important role when you're presenting the logic part of it, right? And be very crystal clear when you're talking about logic. Take care not to confuse your readers with figures and jargons, right? So, because some of you might be like really good. I'm saying some of you because I'm not great with numbers, but a lot of us in this field will be very good with numbers, right? And you want to add too many numbers, too many graphs and figures. It's nice to, present it in a graphical or a number format, visually represent it in a different format, but it should be easy for a reader to understand what you're trying to say and not very confusing. So be sure that whenever you're presenting facts and figures, it has to be, clear and not really confusing for your reader, right? And that's a fallacy. That's, don't weaken your argument with sophistries. If your argument can be picked apart easily, it's time to aim from another angle, right? So don't try to use any kind of, cool words or flowery words or anything with which you're trying to say prove your point, right? And if it can be presented in a very direct, simple, logical manner, don't go to complicated. That's what it basically means, right? So don't mislead your reader. That's what it means, the third point. And go with the flow. Structure your proposal in a way that it makes sense. So if you have doubt, follow the inverted pyramid model. So what is the inverted pyramid model? That is ordering your information from the most important to the least important. So always ensure that when you're writing your executive summary, or whether you're writing any kind of a, important proposal content, always aim to put your most important thing that you want your reader to know, that has to be on the top, and then that can be followed by what is least important. So this always helps. All right, so that was about the three techniques of Aristotle, which I felt is totally relevant, and it makes a lot of sense when we're talking about persuasion in general, persuasive writing as well, right? So I hope these techniques that we spoke about uh, will be helpful to you. But I have some more tips, right? So these are some general tips that you can use for persuasive writing. So you need to firstly show a clear understanding of your client's problem. So whenever we're talking in a proposal, it's always about the customer. I mean, all of us know that, right? So though we would love to talk about our company and their achievements time and again in our executive summaries, we should avoid it as much as possible and focus on the customer's issue and customer's solution, what solution they are looking at, right? So the problem is the client's problem should be of our, utmost focus. And then emphasize any existing relationship So if we have any good relationship with the customer, that's going to always benefit us, right? So focus on that, emphasize on how we have thrived together as with each other, right? So that helps you. Describe what your solution is. First talk about what your solution is, and then how your solution will work. Just talking about, okay, we can do this and this, but no, also elaborate, give them those simple steps, right, to explain to them how you're going to implement what you're going to implement, right? That's going to help. And quantify the return on investment, ROI. It's all about ROI, right? They want to know what is the return that they're going to get. Is it even worth spending so much? What are we getting in return? So quantifying the ROI is very important. And talk about your team. Your team is your strength, right? So who do you have in your team, in your, to support this, this whole problem or the approach or whatever you're trying to offer to your clients. So talk about your team, tell them that you have this strength in your team, and you can give a very nice bio and very nice credentials about your team that talks about your team, and they know that these guys really know what they are doing, right? So talk about your team. Have a realistic project plan, right? We're talking about proposals here, so we can't just not have a plan, a very systematic project plan. So talk about that and have contingencies in place. If the plan A doesn't work, what is your plan B, right? So these are all some of the tips that you can use when you're trying to convince your client with your persuasive writing. Okay. And then we talk about these three simple steps again, right? How we can follow these steps and how it's going to help us again in making our content a little more appealing, a little more convincing and persuasive. So hit the right objectives in each section. We spoke about it earlier, but just making it, even breaking it down to even more simpler terms is, you should know what your objectives are when you're talking in each section. You should know what you're writing about. Get better responses from your SMEs, right? Your subject matter experts are your people, they are the ones who's going to help you to understand about the different solutions. So get the right kind of responses from them, and consistently use your best content. I mean, this is something I don't really have to tell any of the proposal people in the call, because I think we are all good at it. But if you're not been like organizing it or utilizing it to a proper extent, I think it's time you do it. Because answering the question present, okay, I'm going to come to that point. So here we are talking about the first point that I spoke about, hitting the right objectives in each section. When I say that, okay, this is this is applicable both for commercial proposals as well as the government ones, but maybe more so for the government proposals. um, Overall, I mean, any proposal for that matter, but in specific to government, why I told that is because sometimes you're very specific on how they want their RFPs to be responded, right? So answering the question presented in the RFP, that should be a first target, and then make sure that you really answer the question what they're asking you. Answer those questions first. Later on you can think about finding a deeper benefit, if at all you have space anywhere to respond to what more value adds you can provide to them. That is the next part. But first, answer the right questions that they have asked in a right manner. That is very important. Spell out how you're different from your competitors and how you're providing exactly what your reader needs, right? So this is about responding and meeting the objectives in the first in the first instance, and then getting the better responses from your SMEs. Trying to find quality RFP responses from your SMEs can be difficult sometimes. Yes, we do struggle with it, all of us have that struggle. So it's not like they're not going to give us the responses. So it's like, a lot of times we have to get the responses updated time to time. It could be anything, it could be certifications, and it could be any project related responses which needs to be updated, right? And SMEs need that reminder from us, like, it's time that you, and we need to have that plan and approach how we are doing it. So we have a lot of softwares to do that these days. So it's easier to do it, but we should be ensuring that we have this, though it's difficult, we ensure that we keep in constant touch with our SMEs to get those required technical information updated. And most of your team will not understand how to write sometimes the sections independently, because if it's a very lengthy RFP and if it's divided into different teams, they may struggle with answering it independently, because ultimately it all has to tie down to one particular proposal, right? So we should be giving them, we being the proposal managers should be giving them that level of information, how they can actually write, and how it all flows naturally and smoothly, right? And a structured response style can help them quickly understand what exactly you're looking for. So this is what we should be targeting from our SMEs. And consistently use your best content, right? Like BBR, like building a better response. So how are you going to use your the best content? So many times we end up writing customized content, or a content that could be asked again and again in a proposal. And sometimes due to lack of time or anything, we just don't put it in our repository or in a software or a tool that we may be using to store our information or our frequently asked questions. Ensure that if you're not going to do that, it's going to be, especially for proposal teams, this step is very important, because it's not like all the questions will be different in every proposal. Yes, each proposal is different in its own way, but about your company, a lot of questions can repeat, and that what is the best response you have provided for a particular question, right? And ensure that you save that, otherwise it will be wasted, it will go nowhere. So whatever system or proposal software you use to organize your content, security questionnaire responses or anything, make sure it provides easy access for all your stakeholders, so that they can go there, refer back, or update it from time to time. It becomes easier for your sales team to go back and refer to it, and advise you in case they feel that, okay, this is a little outdated, this needs to be refined, or things like that, right? So you can write the most persuasive content in the world, but if your team can't find or maintain it, it will be wasted. So ensure that we have this, right? We are building better responses, and we are storing it and preserving it for future use. Okay, so far we spoke about persuasive writing. Now let's move on to the art of storytelling. I'm sure everybody has their own style of saying a story. Everyone has your story. So what is your story? That is what we need to be highlighting in the proposal. What is our story, right? So how you can be persuasive with your story now? So most successful ads, if you see ads in commercial, it's all on storytelling, how they convince us with the very interesting. It is just in that, not even two, it's sometimes just some seconds, not even a minute of ad, right? So sometimes it's a long ad, but even in that very short advertisement, how they convince us to buy their product. So that's all about a story. They have a concept in their mind, and they're going to tell it to us. So it's all about the art of storytelling. That's how we as humans relate, right? So even if it's a complicated idea, and if it's presented to us in a very interesting and a fun manner, we would like to go for it, right? So that's all about art of storytelling. So get people to understand your point of view when you're talking about buying your products or buying your solution, why they should be doing it. Convince someone that what you're saying is true, and they should do what you suggest, right? So it's not, doesn't mean you're going to force them into it, but you're going to tell it or present it in a way that they are really convinced. So remember the persuasion we spoke about, how we convince them. So this is how we do it. And storytelling is an incredibly powerful element of persuasion proposals, and it should permeate, and it should like resonate in your whole proposal. So how do you tell a story, right? So we have grown up listening to stories and all that, right? And even now we would be narrating stories to anyone, our small kids, our kids, or nephews, nieces, anyone. So how do we do it? uh, this stories that we tell in a proposal also, it's not going to be very different than that, but yes, it will be formal, it will be in a structure. And these are the three things that we should be remembering, categorizing it into these three parts. You have to set the scene first. You need to introduce the problem, customer problem, and show a positive outcome through your actions, right? When you tell a story, what outcome it's going to have and how it's going to help your customer, that's all about it. So how do you tell a story? Okay, narrate a story about your company or your key personnel, how they encountered challenges and overcame them. So we're talking about risk here, right? So a lot of companies, right, they want to know what kind of a risk this particular product or solution can cause, and how you have dealt with it in the past. So if you give them those convincing narrative that this is what happened with the one of the companies, and this is how we overcame it, this is how we overcame the challenges, so it's going to really help you. So this is how you're going to talk about talk about who in your company were involved in solving this particular challenge, and how they resolve this particular challenge, right? A story that conveys the everyday heroics that happen at work will resonate more with your evaluators than a statement like, we always go above and beyond our customers. This is a very common way of putting saying that we do this, we do that in our executive summaries, but how do we do it, right? Convince that, show the evaluator that you've actually gone above and beyond by telling them that story, right? So how you tell that story, in what way you tell that story, is those three structures that I told about. So speak about the problem, and then tell about how you resolve them, and what kind of outcome you can offer to this particular client that you're writing a proposal for, right? Hero stories are often hidden in your past performance. It can be from your past performance. You need to interview your project personnel, your SMEs, to find the best stories. It's not always the past performance, right? Sometimes you don't know, it's through talking, right? So this is something that I have learned coming from a journalism background and coming into this proposal field, is that it's a lot similar, right? I used to interview and talk to a lot of people when I was a journalist, and that really helped me when I came in here, and I had to interact with a lot of stakeholders and SMEs, because you have to ask them the right kind of questions. Sometimes it's always about that 5 Ws and 1 H. So where, what happened, how you dealt with this, and what solution we can offer, right? So there is the similarities that you can see. And so what I'm trying to say is, try to talk to people. We as salespeople, as proposal specialists, it's all about the communication, and we never know in what we will learn in that one meeting or one communication or interaction that we would have had with our project personnel or SME. We might learn something new, and that might help us to craft a story that we really want to do in our presentation. So how do you then incorporate that storytelling in your proposal? So if you're an incumbent, use horror stories, right? Scare your customer into selecting you. Show how things would break down if it weren't for you, right? If you're planning to, if you get a hint that, okay, they are thinking of going to some other customer, just think of, ghosting, or just think of what you can say to them that will may put your new, customer into, yeah, new customer into being really scared that, okay, things were at least going good till now, and maybe we're just looking at two new things. I think we can get it from this client. We don't really have to go to other vendors. These vendors are good. So you convince them in such a way that if they try to plan on moving away from you, they are going to be at a loss, right? So tell them those horror stories. And for proposals that involve health, safety, or security, use a lot of drama and tension, like using your solution as the means to a good resolution, because they want to know that they don't want to, and none of the companies would want to compromise on their health and safety issues, right? So you should target those, and say that if you're trying to go to a new supplier, new vendor, a lot of things can go haywire, a lot of things can happen. So use such powerful stories to tell them. A lesson learned story is always useful, shows how you overcome and grown from your setbacks, making you a stronger and better fit for the project than any other competitor. So always use your lessons learned and anecdotes on on the past performances, what happened on a similar project in similar circumstances. Maybe some kind of an inspiring story to how you won over a hardest of the circumstances, because that is again the pathos part coming in there, right? Because you're trying to tell them that there was a challenging situation in the past, and you have successfully managed it, and you're having that relationship with that customer, right? So these are some of the ways in which you can make your story powerful in a proposal. And some more. So when describing your solution, you may want to use a technique used in the science fiction, like describe a future result of your work that transforms the customer, right? So yeah, so you're going to use you're going to make them envision and imagine, right? So this is what we see in sci-fis, right? So we don't know that that's going to actually happen, but you're going to tell the customer that, think of from 5 years from now, 10 years from now, if you use this, what benefits you're going to have. So make them and give them that very nice picture of how things can be. And for that, it doesn't mean you're just making them imagine. You have to actually, yes, take them on a journey. Very good point. And Bhaskar is saying he's scared of ghosting. Yeah, because we just had the Halloween, so it was related to that. Yeah, so this the point about taking them through a journey is a very good point. So, and try the before and after story detailing how much better your customer has operated since you won the contract, right? So that is very important. Not just telling them that we won this deal, but after winning that deal, how much our customer has benefited from us. Listing down the benefits there, and telling them that this is why we should be hired. So that really works. And in a research and development proposal, you might tell a mystery, like defining the challenging problem and showing how you could find the solution. So these are some of the ways. And also tell a story about your process. What do the steps mean? Why are they necessary, and why did you develop them? What problems are they meant? What how are you going to show your process? That's also very important. And positioning yourself in a story is very important. Just narrating it is not. But again, it boils down to the credential part of it, right? After saying all these narratives, you're going to finally position yourself there. Yeah, and say that you have this, correct? All right. And finally, you need to have that strong conclusion. Remember that when you end your story, you need to show a favorable resolution for whatever you have spoken, right? So find a positive conclusion for your story and end it there. Always, whatever story or whatever content you're trying to put in your response, it can't just have an abrupt ending. There has to be that powerful impact, and tell them, it should show them that direction, that okay, this is where it's leading, and if this is how it's concluding. So if you're going to opt for this, we know that this will be the end result, right? Show them that powerful, and don't ever leave them in any questions. Try to read once you've written your story, right? Whatever the story, whatever your response is, go back and read that. Put yourself in the evaluator's shoes and read that. If I'm evaluating this, do I get any questions from this particular narrative? Do I have any unanswered questions in this? So in this case, what would be the question from the evaluator? So try to answer and cover all those in your story, right? Because they shouldn't be left with any questions that are negative. If it is a positive question and they're going to come back to you and ask you, that's a good thing, right? You can leave those kind of things. But negative, no, it's a strict no, because that's going to again put you in trouble. So be very careful what kind of stories, because it can't be fictional stories. We have talking facts here in proposals, so we should be able to do that. When we promise to deliver and say that we have done this in the past, we're going to do it for you, we should be sure. That's why we have to need to have that connect with with our solution architects, with our SMEs, who's going to tell us that yes, we can do this for you, right? So it all has to tally down together, and that's how you form a story, and that's how you conclude it. Yes, so that's all I had from my end. And now I think we are open to Q and A's, and I see some great point made. If you can't identify a compelling story, would this be a sign that you shouldn't be bidding on that particular project? Yeah, I mean, not necessarily. It's not always. I'm saying, like, you will have some or the other. If you think that that bid is worth chasing, you definitely will have a story, to narrate, right? So it need not be like a huge story or anything, but even win themes, right? Yeah, you're going to have your win themes. You're going to tell them why you're bidding. Otherwise, if you see there is no win themes, there is no powerful story, and no connection or relation with the customer, then I think we should be considering whether it's even worth investing our time in, right? So that's where the bid no bid qualification process and all of that comes into picture. Would
Perfect.
you? Yeah.
Thank you, Veekshitha. Thank you very much for the talk. Again, you know what? Every single slide, every single point should be like, I know that, I know that, I know that. But end of the day, we all need is reminders that there could always
Yes.
be that one thing that we could take it from this. Even though we know logos, pathos, ethos, yes, it's there part of the syllabus for foundation, but we all might be certified. But there was something that you might have picked up from this. I picked up few myself. So if you can add just first of all, thank you. And I know Scribble friends clearly know that. Please do say your thank you to Veekshitha for taking a time. It's now nearly 11 o'clock there. So getting there. So thank you and all our Indian friends for joining at this time. But please do thank Veekshitha for her time. Second one is, what's that one thing that you picked up from this webinar that you're going to take it further? Because you do know once it's in the chat, I'll be following up with you. So please do write it. What's it one thing that you have taken from this webinar? And then I'll be Scribble Quiz is still there. Thank you for staying until late. You know Scribble Quiz is there. But I'll pick a few questions that's already came out. But please do have your questions here. But what I'm more interested is what's it one thing that yes I know that, or I didn't know that, but I'm going to take it further. What's it one thing? I'll leave you there with the thought. And in the meantime, Veekshitha, let's go and there's a lot of good messages from you. We'll send
Yeah,
all the love and support to you.
sure.
Thank you for joining. But the questions. The first question is okay, I think from anonymous attendee. I don't know who it is, but what grammatical checks do you do while reviewing the proposal?
Okay, so the basic grammatical check, first of all, that's very important. You know that you need to be doing what is a key in word. You just have to press the F7 button and just do that basic grammatical check. But other than that, it could be like, the English, right? US English, UK English is different. So, and if, Indians in India, we follow the UK English. So it depends on different region that you're supporting your bits. So checking on the differences, for example, if I have to give you organization is Z in US and S in UK. So these kind of
Mm, mm, mm,
the things, and capitalizing where you need to capitalize, unnecessary bolding of words, capitalizing it everywhere, it's not allowed. So these kind of things. And also active and passive voice, right? That's very important, because we always want to keep it in active voice and not in passive, because that kind of gives you that that we're not really being that changes the tone of the sentences. So we should be always trying to write active passive. So these are some of the important ones. But other than that, it's more about the sentence structure. The proposal editors would know that. And the important things about not making any mistakes in terms of the spelling errors, the basic
mm.
spelling errors is something that we cannot think of making in a proposal. Yeah.
Nice. Thank you. Hope that was useful. Have you got any tips to help guide the writer so they use the right amount of emotion in a bit? This is the first question from Scott. I know there are a few more from Scott. Have you got any tips to help guide the writer so they use the right amount of emotion in a bit? Any checklists or any cheat sheets that you say, you know what, this is the emotion that I want from you,
Mhm.
like a director in a movie and slapping the actors to get the emotions out? Do you have anything that you give to
Yeah,
the writer?
I think it's again linked to the problem of the customer. So it
Mm,
totally depends on what the issue in hand is. So
mm,
in relation to that, we have to check, like, what kind of emotion, if you're going to present to them, it's going to affect that particular issue that the customer is talking about, right? So
mm,
I would say it's very much relevant to the solution, or the problem, not the solution, problem in hand. Basically, it is, I think, about knowing your customer well, and trying to say that where if you do this a little too much, it's going to not, they're not going to like it, right? So that kind of emotion, we shouldn't overemphasize on anything, basically,
mm,
but try to bring in that human element in there, right? When you're talking about a simple product, for okay, let me take an example of a furniture. If you're a furniture based company, and if you're talking about the benefits, ergonomic benefits, and all of that, so talk about in terms of how it's going to help the customer, rather than just demeaning them and saying that if you don't have it, this is going to. So avoid those negative emotions, but target on the positive. So this is applicable to basically any field. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Yeah, I think there are a lot more questions coming. So I think we have 12 minutes. I need 5 minutes for Scribble Quest. 7 minutes, 7 questions. Let's go. So,
Okay.
question maybe off topic. No, no question is off topic. Neeraj. So, Neeraj is asking, will the same approach, the persuasive writing and the storytelling, work for lead generation? Say, for example, email campaigns, LinkedIn campaigns, etc.
Definitely, Neeraj. I think there it plays even more a bigger role, right?
Correct.
Because
Correct.
that's where you have to be convincing them to, and that's where you're going to go and see the lead, and also interact with a lot of agencies to get you those leads and all that. So telling
Mm,
them that why
mm.
they should be coming to you, not others. That's, I think, persuasion is very important there, right? There it begins right there.
100%, 100%. I think as Veekshitha mentioned, Neeraj, it's even more important for you to build that know me, like me, trust me, buy me very, very quickly with your
Yes.
emotions in marketing. So brilliant. Thank you. Hope that was useful, Neeraj. So Manish asks, okay, you are bidding it for the first time. You haven't bid for this particular project. How do you build the persuasive story when you're bidding first time for a project that you haven't bid before?
Yeah, so like I mentioned, past performances talk about get the testimonials from your, clients of the similar industry or the domain, because this customer is totally new to you. They don't know anything about you. So they, in this instance, you can talk about your company's credentials, right? How it's going to tally with your solutions, and then mainly it's about your, the past records and your testimonials, and also your, current interaction with your solution experts to say how you can customize your solution for this particular client, right? So you can write those persuasive writing, use those persuasive writing techniques to tell them that you do really know what you're doing for them, right?
That's a good one. Thank you. Thank you, Chita. I hope that was useful. And Pallavi asks, I'll come to the chat, but let me pick up the Q&A in the Q&A one. Pallavi asks, how do we ensure that we maintain a consistent tone in the proposal while also telling a persuasive story?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I think it's about, this is where our style guides and all of that comes into use.
Mm,
And again, this, tallies down to our grammar. And so even with that first question related to grammar, we need to maintain a style guide. We also should have a content style, right? So why do we have proposal writers in the team, and even proposal managers? They would have definitely written proposals in the past. So they know how, a particular response will be consistent, if you what kind of a tone we should be using. So I think right in the kickoff call or in the meetings post that, where you're going to talk about the content planning, you should decide on an approach, like this is a tone we will be putting in our proposal, and
mm,
then guide all the SMEs and all the team who's involved, who's giving you the responses, telling them that let's stick to, this way of responding. And then obviously there will be editing, and editors or and who reviewers will have to ensure that it's all going and flowing out well, and not really looking different from each other, right? The previous para of the sentence shouldn't look like someone else has written it. It should look
mm,
like the
mm,
entire proposal has been written by one single person, or the
mm.
one team, right? It shouldn't be like it's all coming from everywhere or copy pasted or anything like that. It has a lot of efforts gone into it, so that's what we should be able to convey through our proposal.
Got it. I think when I think that I have few questions, I really have more questions coming now, which is good. Which is good. So Venu asks, usually the bid or proposal manager solution architects come from technical side, and this storytelling concepts requires a creative mind. Is it good practice to hire a storyteller or train the team about storytelling?
Yes, I mean, it's not like storytelling, there will be experts who will just tell you that I'm a good storyteller, because, storytelling is something that comes with the experience and practice and all of that. And yes, creativity and creative writers are required. I personally think that they play a very good role in proposal teams, because yes, technical people, they focus more on technical aspects. And if you have a support from a creative person, they will definitely tell you that how you can present a technical response in a better manner, right? I mean, it's not like you're going to change anything, any solution or the product information, but how you're going to make it little more appealing and
Mm,
for the layman, right? So that's
mm.
where the creative person plays a role. So I think, Venu, yes, that is a good idea, that having a creative person in the team, creative writer in the team, will be very helpful.
Yes, Venu, I'm happy to take bookings for Veekshitha going forward. You can. So I'll give you my details, Venu. You can book Veekshitha straight from here. Thank
Oh my
you.
God.
Thank you, Venu. I think that's a good one. Okay, I still haven't come to the chat. Thank you for the questions, guys. I will get there. So when we are starting a new company, how do we persuade an opportunity without any previous project experience? I think we covered that, isn't it?
Yeah.
Nishant, so again, it's from the similar companies. I'm sure you could always connect the dots. You could always find something that you have done in the past that might be
Yes.
applicable. So there is no way that you are going to start anything from scratch, right? There is always something, and you need to find what's the thing. That's it, Nishant. So I'm sorry, I've cut the answer, but it's because Weeks already answered it. So let me finish that. Done. Okay, next one is from Rohit. How important is to add success stories to your response if we don't have anything which directly responding to a proposal? How best can we utilize success stories, testimonials?
Yes, I think we will be in. I mean, most of us, at least we would have been in this situation, right? I mean, sometimes because we have offer different solutions from our companies, and sometimes it may not be relevant to one particular solution because we may not have done that in the past. It could be the first time that we are doing, but still, I think any kind of success stories, happy stories will help us, right? So, but let's try to make it as much relevant as possible. But when we do not have it, still adding success stories if your company has done it and if it is even closely matching to the solution that it's you're offering, I think you might as well use it, right?
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you for that. So again, I was just typing. Scribble Quest will begin in 5 minutes. I know we are running few minutes late, but if you can stay, that'll be good because there is something special that I'm going to announce later. So thank you. If you can stay, that's good. Be great. Let me finish that. Okay, let me get back to the chat questions. Again, Rohit, hope that answer helps. Okay, Scott alone has few questions. So let me go. I'll go from the bottom. So in that way, I'm not missing anything. You have got lots of thank you messages, weeks. Thank you for the
Yeah.
webinar. That's the one. Going from the bottom, do you plan, Scott's question again, do you plan or storyboard before you begin writing? Is this a team effort or an individual activity?
I think it's a team effort, and yes, definitely storyboard planning is important. We have done that in the past, Scott together. So Scott and I have worked together. He was
Ah,
my manager in my previous organization. I was
oh,
so surprised to see him here because he just literally gave me a surprise by joining this call. And we have worked on a lot of concept stories, presentations together, and he's really great at it. Yeah, so. I think I hope I answered your question, Scott.
Scott, I think Week's response is she still loves you and thank you for the question. You know you have the answer yourself. Thank you, Scott. Thank you for joining. I think it means a lot when somebody works with you and coming back and supporting them and asking questions. I think it means a lot. And Weeks, you are
Yes.
so blessed,
Yes, I no
100%. So,
doubt.
Chandu's question: what could be the best thing in writing if the company is stepping into RFP filed for the first time without having any previous projects and testimonials? Again,
Same.
we have answered it. So that's it. Okay, Nico. Which section of the Ankit? This is good one. Which section of the proposal you will use for storytelling? Ankit's question.
Okay, so it is, I mean, mainly I would say it start right from the executive summary part. So this is, again, in government or commercial proposals, sometimes we are not allowed to give anything apart from what they would have asked us, right? They have a format, they want us to stick to that. So in that instances, look for questions where they are going to talk about, okay, your experience or, your project experience, what have you done in the past or something, related to those questions. You can try always narrating a story within those questions. Otherwise, I think executive summary is one of the best places where you can narrate a story, because that's where your client will first look at your proposal, and if that is very convincing enough, and then you're going to flow that story into your proposal and resonate it in your entire proposal, I think
Mm.
that's where your storytelling will be successful in a proposal.
Nice. Thank you. Two more questions, I think. One from Sukrit. How can storyboarding help in delivering the proposals? Again, we talked about persuasive writing, we talked about storytelling, but storyboarding is another form of capturing the same thing. We
Yeah.
have webinars around it. Again, as I mentioned, if you follow Baachu Scribble in LinkedIn, go through. There is at least 3 webinars related to storyboarding. Sukrit,
Storyboard.
please do watch them and come back. I'm sure you will have even more questions than before you asked about storyboarding. So that's the message there. Um, um, let me see if there is anything. Again, would you like your story? Again, Scott's asked good questions all along. Would you link your story to your key win themes? What do you think? It's
Yes, yes, of course, we have to. Like how I mentioned, it has to permeate in all your entire proposal. And two win themes, if they are linked, it's like nothing. It's like your nothing like it. I meant. So it's more like your what do you call, emphasizing that in your win themes and then presenting that story. I think it connects really well if you link it like that.
brilliant. that's the end of the questions, and I'm sure you have Weeks. Please do follow Weeks or connect with Weeks, ask any questions, and that's the main thing. So let me open the Scribble Quest. We have 1 minute, 3 questions. Thank you for staying so long. The points, and again, next week we'll announce the first 250 of the winners. We have been consolidating. We have done over 60 webinars. Next week you'll get to know who are the top 20 who attended our webinars, because we will be allocating prize. And many of you will be invited to join our 21-day sprint next starting January. So thank you for your support. So let me go back and find these questions. So we started with Aristotle. We started with 3 words from Aristotle: ethos, pathos, logos. What does pathos stand for? Okay. Good one. So in again, every single one who tried will get a point, and your points get added. Everybody who attends get a point. So all these adds up to it, and you can convert your points to download any learning material, or you could convert your points to get an Amazon voucher. So let's continue. When we talked about logos, Weeks talked about most to least important. Start from the most and then go with the least. What was the model that Weeks mentioned in logos? Oh dear. I need to be very sharp asking questions, because they are so fine-tuned. Weeks, they always answer very quickly.
I'm not allowed to answer, no, Bhaskar.
No, you're not. But we will give you speaker things again. That's a good one. What was the number one mistake that Weeks mentioned that we do while writing? This is a tough one. Typo error? No. Yes, let's see whether I win this. No. Again, Weeks, I think, yeah, no, it's not grammar or spelling. Weeks, do you want to say what's the number one mistake people do? They spend tons of time writing and not give much focus on the structure. Is that right, Weeks?
On the sorry, come again. On the structure, is it?
No, you mentioned the number one mistake people do is just to spend a lot of time on writing, and they don't find much time on doing the other bits. So that's what you mentioned there.
Yes, correct. Yeah.
Okay, so there are 2 stories that Weeks mentioned while she was talking about. What stories are hidden in past performance? No, she never talked about lessons learned. See? What stories? It's a story. We talked about ghost, do you remember? But then we also talked about something. The question is, what stories are hidden in past performance? No, it's not horror story. Sorry, it's the opposite of it. It's the hero stories. Hey, Deepesh,
I think
nice.
we had someone answer that, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
Humble
Deepesh,
yourself.
nice work. I think when we all are haunted by the ghost, you are the one who saved us, Deepesh. Thank you for your hero. The last one before we end it, and then I'll open up and I'll tell you who's the next speaker and the points and stuff. What story shows you, okay, positioning, okay, let me go this way. Positioning story does what? That's the last question. What does the positioning story do? Let's see who gets this. This is a tough one. Anyone? I'll give it just 10 more seconds because I know it's getting late for a few. It's something to do with competition. Okay, do you want to say the answer, Weeks? The positioning story. I know I picked it up from your talk.
Yeah, so
but
I
yeah,
think it puts you ahead of your competitor. That's what you're trying to. Is that
correct.
the one? Yeah.
That's it. That's it. So,
Okay.
and that's the end of it. But thank you for joining. And as you know, all the upcoming webinars are in our live workshop folder. But if you do miss any webinars, don't worry. You can follow Baachu's Scribble LinkedIn page and you could access over the same Zoom link that's there. Next week, I will be announcing the top 250. As you know, it's not part of the agenda. It will be coming out to our regular webinar attendees. Now you've attended this, so you will also be invited to it. Let's see who's our top attender and what are the prices and bits and pieces, and we'll go from there. And here is the 21-day sprint. Every year we do something called the New Year, New You, because we all try to do our good habits. We all try to do bigger and better things. $1 a day, New Year, New You, and we'll be handpicking some leaders or some stars within our community, and we will coach, mentor them over the course of the year. And it starts from this 21-day mentoring, then they move into a further 60-day program, then they move into a 6-month program. So again, it starts from here. Please do have a look and register, and then we'll move as we go progress to December, then we'll gradually bumping up to it. But for now, it's opened only to Scribble superstars who attended with us, and also Scribble webinar attendees or our podcast listeners. That's the thing. So next week, we will have Parvati Jayaraman, again, our student, talking about the topic. But Parvati has not feeling well, but I'll confirm. That's why the 1st of December, we'll have Scribble Awards and then the 21-day sprint kickoff. And then Parvati will be talking on the 8th of December. And then we'll be the finale for that is Leadership for Proposal Professionals by Kerry Mescal and Shraddha Thalwar on the 15th December. So every Thursday, 3 or 4 p.m., we are here. Please do join in. If you get the invite, add your invite in your thing so you can always follow it back. So before you end, I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for your love and support. Thank you, Weeks, for staying so long, so late. And thank you, everybody, for staying so long, so late. Hope you enjoyed it. Please do keep us posted. If there is anything else we could do, of any topic you want to talk about, or if you are interested in speaking, just drop me a note. It's always a pleasure to host you as a guest or as an attendee. Thank you. Have a good evening. Have a good night. And for any US friends who have attended, happy Thanksgiving to you tomorrow. Lots of love to you.